Night of the week, apart from a Saturday, obviously, when we get a chance to go out and do it in the real world. But what can I say? Wednesday nights, our favorite night, iRacing South Africa, IRSA, brought to you tonight by Second Year Productions in the Second Year Productions studio in the friendly city of Cape Town in Velgelegen. And joining me, the voice of Western Province Motorsport, a man that does local, national, and international commentary throughout South Africa. Frankie Yennis, my bride partner as well. Good evening to you.
Yes, Gary, good day, and welcome everybody to Belgium and to the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. And the track is almost 7 k's long, and we are going to race with a Cadillac CTS-V. That's going to be our office block of flats that will be working its way around the track. Quite a few of them out there, 18 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy, 3k an hour wind, and the track temperature only 1 degree more than the outside temperature.
So let's have a look to see who's out there. The Rockstar Energy Drink sponsored 223 of Robbie Teens. That's what his car looks like. The Red Bull 43, that is Luke King.
Right, so Luke King in the Cheetos sponsored outfit, making his way around there. That is Stephen McCarthy, I should say, in the Cheetos outfit car. Then we've got Sandra Bakari. Now, let's go through the numbering system. There's a lot of people that are going to see, but there's double-digit numbers, and then there are triple-digit numbers. Now, the double-digit numbers, or even single digits, which is from 0 up until 99, those are all drivers under the age of 40, classified as the elites. Then you'll see from 100 up until 199. Those are numbers for the drivers that are in the Masters. They round about 40 to 50. They've got that 10-year gap.
60.
Or 59, I should say. Then the double digits that begin with 2, from 2 to 299, that is the drivers that are 60 years older and up, and they classified as the Grandmasters. So you've got the elites, the Masters, and the Grandmasters. So if you see a number that begins with a 1, that is Masters, like that man over there, Peter Hubert. And if you see one that begins with a 2, that means they're over 60 and they are Grandmasters. Anything up until 99, for example, Luke King and Low Wrigley, they are classified as the elites.
And Chase Harold's in there as well.
Yes,
He's just
Chase,
joined in
right
on the last night. So he's obviously practiced before the time. He says, I don't need to practice. I'm sorted out with that. Low Wrigley that you see out there with the likes of that man, Chase Harold, and the likes of that man, Luke King. That is the guys that are under 40 years of age, and the ones that are over 60 is that man, Peter van der Spey, and Sandra Bakari, although you'll never admit to it, and the Bolt man, Robbie Teens. So they're working their way around. It looks like Luke Lekies is going to be one of the first guys that's going to complete his lap as such. Let's see, whereabouts is he? He's still also got quite a long way to go from there. So these cars pretty heavy. I actually did a little bit of a session with one of them last night while the guys were practicing, and believe you me, not easy whatsoever. These cars have got a very long braking distance as he works his way into the chicane and up towards the start-finish line. So he'll be the first guy that's going to actually post a time as such, is Luke Lekies, and he does a 2-minute 19. JJ van der Merwe, the next man that's coming around, and he is 1.4 seconds slower. And then 200 slower than that is Robbie Teens. Though Wrigley's in there, Philip Stanton, Stephen McCarthy, and Francois Hubert says good evening everybody, and welcome to the people watching this from home.
Yeah, and he does that by being the now second quickest driver out there, because Luke King has done a 2-minute 19.495 for Luke King. There is the monster car of Mr. Johan Fourie himself, busy working his way under the Circuit Spa from Francorchamps banner, and he's making his way around, coming out of La Source. And
that's either his sighting lap that he just did, or he did the sighting lap. That's his second time around, and he didn't get a clean lap. So Johan Fourie putting himself under a little bit of pressure there. Let's see whereabouts is Raymond Duggan. He's still got 3 more corners to go. Petit Hubert, another one of the frequent flyers. Yep, he's still got quite a way to go as well. So we don't have a lap time. Well, Chase Herald sitting in the pits. Peter van der Spey is still out there on circuit as well. Oh, he's got a long way to go still from there to be able to pick up a lap time. And that was Speaker's Corner that he was going through. Down towards the dip he goes into Bruxelles, and then he'll work his way from there down to Speaker's Corner, and then all the way down the hill. This is the very difficult section of the circuit. It's literally they're called the double gaucher. It's literally a double right-hander, so you'll work your way towards the outside of the circuit just a little, and then nip it nice and tight. Use all the curbing on the outside. Sandro Bakari has not put up a lap time yet. Waiting for Johan Fourie. He still is on his way around. Willem Botha is still out there. He's got a little way to go as well. Let's see what he can do over the final corner. And let's see, what does he do? Willem Botha, one of the masters. Surely he'll pick up around about 6th or 7th. Nope, he hasn't got a lap time out there either. And well, Luke King has gone to the top of the page. Look at that, Luke King on a 2 minute 19, 64 thousandths better than the man that was up top there. And here comes Johan Fourie. This is the one that everybody's waiting for. Johan Fourie coming up towards the line. Will he break that front row of the grid? No, 3rd row. Alongside a very quick time there by Graham Stephen.
Yeah, looking at that 2 minute 19.495 a couple of laps ago. Francois Hubert was in pole very briefly, and then Luke King took it away from him. There's Raymond Duggan, busy working his way around. Raymond Duggan out there doing his lap in the 171 Cadillac, busy working his way around. Then we see Sandro Bakari working his way around the circuit. Sandro Bakari also has to put a lap up. Robbie Teens and Luke King is in the pit area. So is Graham Stephen with 8 minutes and 40 seconds done. Luke Lucchesi is currently in 3rd position, 900ths of a second off provisional pole sitter Luke King. Francois Hubert is 600ths of a second off King. Luke is 900ths in that 3rd place, so not much separating the first 3 so far, with a minute to go before the end of the qualifying session.
Well, Frankie, if you think about it, there is a 1/10 of a second between Johan Fourie and Luke King, the one being 1st and the other one being in 5th position. That's very, very close. Francois Hubert is also out on track at the moment. He's on the front row of the grid, at the provisional front row of the grid. Can Luke Lucchesi knock him off the front row of the grid? He's only looking for 300ths of a second. That's all that he needs to bump it up onto the front row of the grid. But keep in mind that Francois Hubert is, nope, he knows he hasn't made it. So Francois Hubert is going to look pretty safe at this stage of the fight. Sandro Bakari still hasn't put up a lap time either. I think Sandro Bakari is around about now going to come across the line. He comes through in 13th position. Peter van der Spey, who's still not got himself onto the board yet. Oh, he's going to run out of time. It's 9 minutes 59. Peter van der Spey going to be coming off the back end of the pack. Unfortunately, not been able to put a clean lap in up until that point. So let's have a look at that grid.
Right, so Luke King and Francois Hubert lock out the front row together with Luke Lucchesi and Graham Stephen. Row 3, Johan Fourie and Peter Hubert. Row 4, JJ van der Merwe, Robbie Teens. And row 5, Louw Wrigley and Raymond Duggan.
That's going to be interesting stuff to see how they're going to be able to go from there. Timothy Stanton and Stephen McCarthy. That's the next two that we see there from Sandra Bakari, Gerald Majay, Chase Herald, that did not go out on circuit at all to try and put a time up. Willem Botha, Peter van der Spey, and Eugene Minuk. That's the 18 that is going to be taking part in this race number 1. So remember, there's been a 50-minute practice. That was the 10-minute lone quali. There's two 25-minute races with a 3-minute warm-up in between. It's a rolling start, as you can see, with the safety car standing in front there. And then there will be 3 minutes between the two races. So, any predictions?
No, it's going to be difficult though. Remember, these Cadillacs is like rocket flats or office block, if you like to call it. That's going to be difficult, big machines to handle around the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. And obviously you have to adjust your braking, because this, compared to a single-seater or even a Porsche Cup car or a GT3 car, is a lot different. Right, safety cars in. That is that final chicane. Oh, there's a pile-up before they even get to that start-finish line in that mid-pack. That's going to cause major drama. The lights go green and away we go. And those drivers that were involved in that pile-up before the lead car even got to the start-finish line, well, they have already dropped to the back of the field. So up front, it's Luke King, Francois Hubert, Luc Lucchesi, Graham Stephen. Right on his case is Johan Fourie, followed there by Robbie Teams. That's that top group as they make their way through Eau Rouge and hanging on cable there, going on to the Kemmel Straight, working their way through Stavelot and onto that Kemmel Straight. It's going to be hectic stuff, working their way now through Les Combes, and then from there they will work their way down the hill towards Bruxelles.
So Luke King, that got the fastest lap time in the qualifying, made a good start there. Francois Hubert in his normal black and let's call it white colors. Luc Lucchesi. Graham Stephen has looked very good in this car.
Yes, indeed, sitting there in that 4th position, and we'll get the battle box and the track map up for you folks at home shortly, and you can see everything that is happening out here at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. At this point in time, not much separating the first 13 cars out there up until Peter van der Spey, but it's Luke King that sits there in P1. Go all the way down to Raymond Duggan in that lovely orange color. Chase Herald coming through there. Now Chase Herald is the 3rd of the elites out there. He's 3rd in class and sits P10 overall. Is Chase Herald. And we go back to the man up front. That is Luke King. Francois Hubert right there behind him, followed by Luc Lucchesi. Right on his case is Graham Fourie, Graham Stephen, and hot on his heels is Johan Fourie.
Yep, Johan Fourie holding on to that front 5. Remember, there was literally a 1/10 of a second between them. Johan Fourie getting a bit of space between himself and Raymond Duggan, and then they come through very close to one another. There's Low Wrigley, there is Robbie Teague, Stephen McCarthy, Chase Herald. Oh, they're battling to get those big cars to slow down, and the one that's gone into the pits, that must be Robbie Teague. Yep, Robbie Teague that's gone into the pits. Back to the front end of the field. It's all about Luke King, and here comes Luc Lucchesi. Luc Lucchesi having a look up on that inside line, and it looks like he's slightly ahead of Francois Hubert. Francois Hubert's got the racing line, and I think Francois Hubert will lead that one through. Two very experienced and talented drivers. They're not going to take one another out.
No, making their way now down that Kemmel Straight, and here comes race driver SA and Frontiera Racing's Luc Lucchesi. He sits there on the outside of Francois Hubert. He's got his nose ahead. Will he hold on to that position going into that right left-hander? He does. He drives around him on the outside, and Graham Stephen has lost a little bit of ground there.
Oh, it's Johan Fourie that took advantage of that. He saw it coming, made the necessary moves, but look who else is coming closer. It's all about that guy, the 171 Falcon High Performance Tires, Orange Mean Machine Cadillac, that is now closed up to make that a 6-way battle.
Yeah, Graham Stevens sits there behind him. So he's lost out a bit. He's 2 seconds behind Duggan. He's Stephen. He got muscled out the way in that maneuver there between King and Lucchese. As a matter of fact, Lucchese's got up to second. Francois Hubert that he had the fight with sits there in that fourth position behind Johan Fourie. They capitalized with this one. Here comes Chase Herald. Behind him is the Barbidol car, and that is Willem Botha. Then we got Stephen McCarthy, and right on his case is the Caution car, and that is Low Wrigley.
Well, Raymond Duggan's starting to put the pressure on. He's all over the back end there of Francois Hubert. Let's ride on board with that Raymond Duggan car. That's what 0.7 of a second looks like when you're doing 227 kilometers an hour.
Yeah, these Cadillacs, not easy cars to maneuver around the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. That's going through Blanchimont and then heading towards that right-left S's. That takes you back onto the main straight again. And 2 minute 19.145. Luke King sets the quickest lap out there.
Yep, that's him going around the corner already. Luke King from Luc Lucchese. There he goes. There goes Johan Fourie. Francois Hubert directly in front of us. And here we go. On the way down the front main, if you want to call it that, down towards Eau Rouge. Let's just see and just listen to the tone of the car. Does he lift? Yes, he lifts off very lightly. Now, I don't feel so bad about the practice last night because I couldn't go through their flat foot, and neither can Raymond Duggan. Another man that's got quite a pack of cars in front of him is, in fact, this man, Willem Botha, as he works his way through towards the Lake Carm series of corners.
Yeah, Willem Botha wants to try and make the move there on Chase Herald. Just ahead of him, and then behind him is Francois Hubert. So Chase Herald has got Botha and Hubert right in there with him. As a matter of fact, McCarthy and Wrigley is not too far behind them as well. So this is what it looks like on that front right suspension of the Francois Hubert car. That is a 111 car. Let's have a look at the Barbidol car just ahead of him. That's Willem Barbidol Botha. That is there in the
Willem Barbidol.
That's in that 7th position. He's not going to like that, but he chose the Barbidol outfit. It does look nice on the car, though, I must say. And he sits on the case of Chase Herald, does Botha.
I somehow have a feeling that Willem Barbidol Botha is going to be doing a lot of racing in the upcoming series. So let's have a look at the front end of the field. We are on 6 minutes 37 of the allotted time period that we have got. Lap number 3 of a possible 11 laps. It's Luke King that is leading them out and doing a lovely job of it. I mean, he's got almost 3 seconds that he's got on the very quick Luc Lucchese as he works his way in there. Johan Fourie started to close. There is no doubt about it. Johan Fourie is closing on Luc Lucchese. Let's see the lap times. 2:19.6. 2:19.3. Luc Lucchese faster. 2:19.9. It looked like he was closer, but he was actually slightly slower, Johan Fourie, than Luc Lucchese on the last lap.
Well, Johan Fourie is used to racing the old Westbank V8 modifieds. Chase Herald has just moved up on the inside there of Willem Botha. So does Francois Hubert as well. So Botha has lost 2 positions there.
So who did they pass? Bobby Botha.
Barbidol Botha.
Barbidol Botha. I must get accustomed to that name because that is gonna stick. Let's ride along with the Barbidol as he works his way through one of the fastest sections of the town. Oh, he made that look super easy.
He's sitting there with he's in P7 and he had a fight there with
Ken.
with Francois Hubert. No,
it wasn't Ken.
With Steve McCarthy, sorry. And he's got his nose just ahead there of Steve McCarthy. We're getting ourselves confused here with Barbie and Ken. As there is Francois Hubert, and there goes Botha just ahead of him, you see. And Francois and Stephen McCarthy not too far behind. As a matter of fact, Peter Hubert has also got his nose ahead there of Steve McCarthy.
So Steve not having a great lap in terms of positions at this stage of the fight. So as we said, it's a 25-minute race. Well, there's two 25-minute races, this being the first of those races. And it looks like Timothy Stanton is a bit tired of being in the 13th position. He's got the Roland intake manifolds. That's his father is the guru, Rolly Stanton. And well, I'm sure Roland is super chuffed with what he has achieved in terms of bringing his son up and creating a businessman out of him, and what he's also now become as an iRacing driver as well.
Yeah, the two of them are chasing down Daddy Stanton, just ahead of him is Van der Merwe, and they're chasing down Peter van der Spey, that is in that 11th position. Van der Spey, Van der Merwe and Stanton, 11, 12 and 13. That's the three cars you see there on the track. They're busy working their way towards Blanchimont. Meantime, coming out of the source, he's your race leader, Luke King, and he's nearly 3 seconds ahead of Luke Lucchese in that second position, who is 2.1 seconds ahead of the man in third place, namely Johan Fourie.
Next one through is Raymond Duggan, and then a very good ride by Graham Stephen, and then a little bit further back, a bit of a gap, Chase Harold that worked his way through, but he's still got Willem Barbie Botha in there behind him. And then the next one through is Francois Joubert. Through the dip they go. It's a light lift. Oh, using the whole track and more is Francois Joubert. And Francois Joubert has dropped down a good couple of positions. Let me see if I can maybe pick up what exactly happened, why Francois Joubert is slightly further down.
Now, Petit Joubert coming through in that 9th position, and 3.2 seconds behind him, riding off the top 10, is Steve McCarthy. As we watch the Pennzoil car make its way around, coming out of Bruxelles, as he sits there in that 9th position. As a matter of fact, there's an issue. Steve McCarthy has got problems out there. There is Peter Joubert coming through there. Chase Harold, I think, is a driver that had problems. Yes, because Chasey now finds himself behind Peter Joubert and Steve McCarthy. So it was Chase Harold that had a problem with that 29 car. As you'll see it step out of line. Oh, there was contact between himself and Willem Botha.
Yep, and then just before that, Gerald Maget had a bit of an incident as well. He's in the same colours as Michael Stephen. Sorry, Graham Stephen, should I say. He just overshot. JJ van der Merwe had a bit of an incident earlier on. Also probably the very same corner. Yep, everybody battles to get it to slow down there. Let's have a look, see what happened earlier on to Timothy Stanton. On the same corner. As I said, these blocks of flats, they don't like to slow down and turn.
No, that's that final right-left chicane, and that's what catches the drivers out. Peter Joubert coming through as well. That's a replay of Peter Joubert busy working his way through in the 179 Cadillac of Peter Joubert. Replay here of Sandro Vakari turning into that right-hander in the 272, and he almost connected Low Wrigley. Low Wrigley had a problem out there with that 33 car.
Let's see what happened before that with Low Wrigley. It looks like he just lost the tail end, comes in hard on the brakes, climbs off the brakes, climbs onto the gas, and that's where he turned himself around. It was also a little bit earlier on in the race, JJ van der Merwe in the Fanatec and Falcon Tire sponsored car. Let's see what happened with him. Using just a little bit too much curbstone, and that's where that whole accident was. And I think Peter van der Spey was involved in that one as well. There they come through. There's the right-hander, the left-hander sticks it in, not enough space, and Chase Harold says thanks very much, I'll have a piece of that, and he works his way through. So let's go back to the front end of the field. There he is, Luke King. And this is probably going to be from a flag, well, from lights to flag, because Luke King is really hauling that Red Bull sponsored Cadillac around the Spa-Francorchamps circuit very, very neatly. He's got a bit of a gap on second, but not that much, pretty much in the same camera shot. There is the 124 of Luke Lucchese. Looks like they've dotted that car, looking at the way that it's been liveried, and he's still holding that 2.8 second gap from that man, Johan Ferry, and then after Johan Ferry there's a reasonable gap behind that, and that being back to Raymond Duggan. Raymond Duggan's problem is not the problem of getting to Johan Ferry. The problem is the man that's behind him, and that is Graham Stephen. And Graham Stephen is not that far off whatsoever. That's how close he is.
Like 5/10 of a second between Duggan and Stephen in P4 and 5. And then we get a bit of a gap, nearly 7.5 seconds before we see Willem Botha. And he's been kept honest there by Francois Hubert. They're working their way into that final left-right chicane, which takes them on to the home straight. And then 3.3 seconds behind them is Peter Hubert. You should see him coming under the Spa-Francorchamps bridge. There is Peter Hubert. He is in 8th position. And then 7.2 seconds behind him in P9 is Stephen McCarthy in the Sujin Property and SS Racing outfit. And then rounding off the top 10 is Peter van der Spey. He's 5.5 seconds behind McCarthy.
Sandra Bakari and Low Wrigley, and well, there's nothing much between the two of them. They've been pretty close to one another for a period of time. Raymond Duggan's close. Raymond Duggan had a look in there on Graham Stephen. Unfortunately, was not able to make anything more of it, but he's got the pressure on.
Pressure's definitely on here on Graham Stephen to try and keep Duggan behind him, working their way now out of Bruxelles. That is that right hairpin, and then they start working their way down hill. Basically, remember that Spa-Francorchamps is situated in the mountain area of Belgium, and that's literally built on a semi-hill. So you start working your way down from there. There is Low Wrigley, and he's going to make a move surely on Sandro Bakari. Bakari covers that line and keeps Wrigley behind him, and closing up on them 1.1 is Timothy Stanton. That's in that 13th position, and he's closing up there on Low Wrigley and Sandro Bakari.
Well, that's quite a battle between these two, and well, let's just hope they don't make any contact at all, because both of them are really nice guys, and we'd like to see both of them make it all the way to the end.
Well, there's a fight for P4 between Stephen and Duggan, and there's one for P6 between Botha and Hubert, and then the one we're with now for P11 between Bakari and the man you ride on board with, P12 in car 33, that is Low Wrigley. That's about the only fights out there, but Timothy Stanton is joining that fight with Low Wrigley for Bakari's 11th position. There you see Stanton a second behind Wrigley, sitting in that 13th place. You see the shadows of the wing of the Wrigley's Cadillac on the track of Spa-Francorchamps, as Low Wrigley is still hunting down Sandro Bakari. Ahead of him 6/10 of a second between Bakari and Wrigley, and 4/10 of a second between Wrigley and Stanton.
Well, as they say, sometimes you're the bug and sometimes you're the windscreen, but it looked like the bug that hit that windscreen, you can see the marker as they go underneath the bridge. The bug that hit that has actually chipped the windscreen, so that must have been a very high speed encounter. And let's say windscreen 1, bug none.
Yeah, you can see in that left-hand side wing mirror of Wrigley, you can see that green car of Timothy Stanton. I just picked it up there. Well, that's what it looks like from the circuit cameras. Stanton crowding the back end of that Low Wrigley Cadillac, and Stanton doing that. There's no ways that Wrigley can go after Bakari. There's 7/10 of a second between them, and Sandro Bakari would love to open up the gap on the Wrigley-Stanton combination.
Well, I think you're going to find that Low Wrigley is going to be driving slightly more comforting lines to cover himself from the Stanton car, and with Stanton making a slight error, that just gives him a little bit of breathing space so that he can now concentrate a little bit more on getting to Sandro Bakari. 18 minutes of the 25.
After P6, we see that Willem Botha and Francois Hubert, it's now gone to a second. It's now back to just under a second. That one is busy escalating and dipping between Botha in P6 and Hubert in P7. This is a replay of Willem Botha.
That's how
race
hard.
driver SA at eSports.
That's how hard he was driving, using the whole track and more.
And be careful there for track limits, Willem Botha. But he has opened up a gap of nearly 1.3 seconds between himself and Francois Hubert, that's in that 7th position. Willem Botha of race driver SA eSports. And right behind him now, back up to a second, is Francois Hubert.
So, as the minutes tick away, the top 9 drivers, well, in fact, the top 13 drivers, only one of them is not a Class A registration under iRacing South Africa. All of them are Class A's. The Class B's are JJ van der Merwe, Gerald Mercier and Eugene Manouk, and then Peter van der Spey that's dropped down to a Class C. So he must have been doing a couple of public races and got himself a little bit in a knot, and he's been dropped down now to the Class C, but he'll work his way back up again.
Well, let's not forget about Luke Lucchesi for race driver SA and Pantera Racing. He's in that 2nd position. He's a second behind race leader Luke King. One for is 5 seconds behind them. Then we see Graham Stephen. He's 8 seconds behind Fourie, but only 2 seconds ahead of Duggan. Here comes Willem Botha, 1.2 ahead of Francois Hubert, 5.2 he's ahead of Peter Hubert, and 11.8, nearly 12 seconds between Peter Hubert and Steve McCarthy. That rounds off the top 9.
Well, Low Wrigley still in close attendance, but not been able to do anything about Sandra Bakari, even though he's gotten away from Timothy Stanton, and he can concentrate just on Sandra Bakari, not being able to make any realistic headway there whatsoever. Just for interest's sake, the likes of Luke King, that's right up front. Look how wide he's going, and then also Luke Lucchesi as well. So yeah, there's a lot of the guys that are using the whole track and more.
Go back to that fight for the lead, only 0.5 of a second between King and Lucchesi. So Luke is reeling him back in, and so is Low Wrigley, the man you see on the screen there. Just 0.4 of a second between himself and Sandra Bakari, that's in P11 as we jump back to the fight for the lead, and that is between King and Lucchesi. Just under 0.5 of a second between the two of them as they work their way around. That's Eugene Manouk going very wide, coming out of La Source. Right, here we go. Race driver SA Pantene Racing, up Rouge he goes, onto the gas and down onto the Kemmel Straight they go. That is, by the way, and I've said it before on numerous occasions, the fastest part of the Spa-Francorchamps circuit, Gaza, as he sits on the outside as you make the move. No, he's not going to do that. Going for the cutback, but that doesn't work there, as that Cadillac is squirming around under the Lucchesi as they race down towards Bruxelles.
I think he's realized with 3 minutes to go, he can actually maybe take the win here ahead of Luke King. Remember, Luke King is one of the elites, one of the juniors, one of the under 40s. Luke Lucchesi, the first of the masters, which is 40 years and over. And well, he's going to have a bit of an opportunity from here on out. There's that double left-hander that I spoke about, the double Gachet, as they work their way down to Les Farm.
So, leading the Grandmasters is Peter van der Spey. Second in that class is Sandra Bakari. That's a driver 60 and older. So they're sitting in P10 and 11. But first and second in class, van der Spey and Bakari.
Nothing much between these two. Are they trying to make it safe for one another, Stephen McCarthy and Peter van der Spey? But seeing that we've only got 3 minutes left, I think we have to go to the front end.
Yeah, as we go there, van der Spey made the move stick there on McCarthy and put McCarthy between himself and Bakari. As we go back to the business end of the field, that is Luke King and Luke Lucchesi. 0.3 of a second between the two of them into that right to left-hander. Remember, only 2 25-minute races, so there will be no pit stops in this. as they start their last lap. White flag is out. One more lap to go for Luke King and for Luke Lucchesi.
Oh, this is going to be battle royal if he can get right onto the back bumper of Luke King. But remember, Luke King, you don't see a lot of people getting past Luke King in any given race.
So as they work their way around onto that Kendall Straight, coming out of Eau Rouge and Radiar, racing down towards Les Pommes. True, Gary, it's not going to be easy to get past Luke King.
Well, getting to him is one thing. Oh, look how that car's snaking around under braking. Can he really? I somehow think Luke King's got it. I mean, don't discount the abilities of Luke Lucchesi. He's not an ex-karting champion for nothing. He's highly intellectual in how to set up everything and anything that's got anything to do with iRacing. He knows how to get the best out of these cars. He knows how to set up balance of performance. You can't teach him anything about iRacing. And his reflexes also magnificently quick. So I would say a big thumbs up to Luke King for managing to hold out on Luke Lucchesi.
Yep, indeed. So where are they heading down? They're heading down towards Campos. Not quite there yet, but they're heading towards the Campos and then Stavelot. As a matter of fact, they're heading into Campos now. And then they turn right and then right again into Stavelot. And then from there, it is the run down to Blanchemont.
Yep, and that run towards Blanchemont, that's a long flat foot. Let's have a look from the in-car point of view. There you can see up into fifth gear. The race driver SA and Pantera Racing. Luke Lucchesi going towards the last corner. This is where it's going to happen or not happen. Into the chicane they go. As I said, I think Luke Lucchesi's got... Oh, no! On the last.
Can you believe it? On the last corner, Luke King chucks the car around and Luke Lucchesi comes home 0.3 of a second ahead of Luke King, first and second. Yuan Furi will cross the line in third, but he'll be almost 12 seconds behind King, with Graham Stephen in P4 and Raymond Duggan in P5, just ahead there of Willem Barbidal Botha, 1/10 of a second between Duggan and Botha.
Francois Hubert, the next one coming through there behind Barbidal. Then it's Perry Hubert. Can you believe it? Luke King does it all right. And on the last corner, literally on the last corner, he goes and throws it away. Whoa, this is nice and close.
Now they've got Eugene Manouk ahead of them. That's a back marker. Peter van der Spey in P9. And he's got McCarthy right there with him. And van der Spey beats him by 1/10 of a second, with Sander Bakari 2.7 behind him, followed by Low Wrigley just under a second. And then Timothy Stanton got to the line just ahead there of JJ van der Merwe.
The Rockstar Energy Cola, sponsored car of the original comeback kid, Robbie Teens. Oopsie, a little bit of Gerald Maget too hard on the gas in the background. As he comes through underneath the bridge will be Gerald Maget. And then that pretty much wraps up that one. Wow, that was the first race of 25 minutes. There's going to be a 3-minute warm-up for those of you that have just joined us. This is where we are. It's West Province Sports and GT Series. It's actually season 9. And we're coming to you from Spa-Francorchamps in the CADILAC CTS-V. And it's a balanced BOP, balance of performance, is exactly the same on all of the cars for everybody. There are 3 different sectors for scoring, one being the under 40s, then being between 40 and 60, and then your Grandmasters 60 and older. So that's how they will be scored at the end of the race. But they've all got the exact same car, the exact same circuit, the exact same balance of performance that's out there for everybody. It's just the scoring that varies. So 3 minutes, and then we'll be coming back to you with the second race of 25 minutes. 。 Alright, so that was the qualifying results. That is it how we determined where everybody pulled away, and then thereafter, that is the results. Luke Lucchesi, 3/10 ahead of the man that led every single lap, every single corner until one corner from the end.
Right, so therefore Luke Lucchesi wins the Masters. Luke King wins the Elites, that's for the drivers up until the age of 39. And then Peter van der Spey, P9, but he wins the Grand Masters, that is from 60 years and up. And Sandro Bakari would have finished second in that class. King would have come first in the Elites, and Low Wrigley would have come second. Chase Herald didn't finish. And then in the Masters would be Lucchesi P1, Johan Fourie P2, and Graham Stephen P3.
Graham Stephen is in fact out on track. He's just doing a little bit of a cool down session. We're just 15 seconds away from getting the grid for the next race. So let's take that one away, and we will bring you the grid in just a couple of seconds. So if I remember correctly, the invert is going to be in this one, and that invert will in fact be the top 25, top 12 that's going to invert. So let's have a look at that grid.
That means that Lucchesi and King, that came first and second, they will be starting 11th and 12th. So Lucchesi that won it, he'll start in 12. Therefore, Low Wrigley and Bakari on the front row, McCarthy and Van der Spey on the second row, Hubert and Hubert, Peter and Francois on row 3, and Botha and Duggan on row 4.
Graham Stephen and Johan Fourie, the two very quick guys that were just in there behind the front two of Luke King and Luke Lucchesi. Timothy Stanton just outside of that split finds himself in 13th from JJ, Robbie, Gerald, Eugene and Chase Herald. Chase Herald has not clicked in again, so I think Eskom has got the better of Chase Herald this evening.
Yeah, he didn't finish the first race, and I don't think we're going to see him out there for the second one. Manouk did finish the first one. He was a lap down. I see that he's currently showing still in the pit area. He's Eugene Manouk, but he will start in 17th in any case. Right, there's no pile-ups this time. You can see them get it 100% right. So far they have. Yes, the lights go green. And away we go for 25 minutes, and it's Low Wrigley that will lead them into turn number 1. Stephen McCarthy goes up on the inside. Wrigley goes wide. He loses 2, 3, maybe even 4 positions. Does Wrigley? Yes, because he sits there in P5, drops down to P6. So Wrigley got it all wrong as he makes slight contact there with Sandro Bakari.
Whoa, going very wide and just climbing back into the back end. He's rubbing the back end. Oh, Johan Fourie on Graham Stephen. Graham Stephen must be saying, what are you thinking, Cuzzy? You're going to kill both of us like that.
Yeah, having a look there at Van der Spey. He sits there in that 9th place, right there with him. He's Francois Hubert, and right there with Francois Hubert is Luke King as well, right behind them. He's Timothy Stanton. Oh, problems out there for Low Wrigley and for Francois Hubert.
Yeah, for some other reason, Low just went off onto the outside of the circuit. It's like he lost accelerator control or something or other. He just slowed it right down, and well, he cautioned himself off onto the inside of the circuit. Let's go back to the front end of the field. Oh, Peter Hubert in the Pennzoil colours. Like to see him in those Pennzoil colours. That's his favourite one. Willem Botha is doing a lovely job staying ahead there of Graham Stephen McCarthy. Graham Stephen has a look on the inside line. He's got to be careful if he gets himself out of line. Who's just in there behind them? It is Johan Fourie.
Yeah, then right behind Johan Fourie, we have got Sandro Bakari, and right on his case is Luke Lucchesi as we ride aboard here with Fourie. Fourie making a move there on Steve McCarthy. He sits there right behind Graham Stephen at this point as they make their way around the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. And Fourie in that fourth place is 7/10 of a second behind Graham Stephen, who's losing a bit of ground there to Botha, who's only 5/10 of a second behind race leader Pieter Joubert. Oh, and into the wall goes McCarthy, and he'll drop down that leaderboard.
Yeah, there is no way around that one. I think that is good night. Oh, it's actually still going. In fact, the damage was set to off, so he will be able to go back on the circuit and continue with that one. But yeah, that was just a little bit of a rub, but it was enough to take him out of the game.
Right, so that will take him all the way out. He drops down to 13th position. Stephen McCarthy, 1.7 behind Francois Joubert. Remember, Francois got held up there behind Low Wrigley when Low went off, and that cost him dearly because he lost a lot of ground. That's why he finds himself in P12. However, right aboard with this man, that's in P6, Luke Lucchesi, right on the case there of Sandro Bakari. Just under 2/10 of a second on the case of Sandro Bakari as they work their way around. That is going through Lake Com and heading down towards Bruxelles, and he sits right on the case of Bakari, does Race Driver SA and Pantera Racing's Luke Lucchesi.
Willem Botha finds himself in the middle of a major battle as well, gets himself worked to the outside. Willem Botha gets past there by Luke Lucchesi. Luke Lucchesi right in behind Sandro Bakari, Peter van der Spain, Timothy Stanton, the two that is directly behind that. He's now also trying to make his way further forward is Francois Joubert.
Yeah, he has to recover from that one. He sits there just behind Luke King, and that is the two of them. Ahead of them is Robbie Teens. Matter of fact, Teens is keeping King and Joubert up right now. And Luke Lucchesi, he's on the back end there of Sandro Bakari. Lucchesi on the back end of that Sandro Bakari car, tucking his nose under that wing of the Bakari Cadillac is Luke Lucchesi. Lucchesi sitting in P4, Bakari is, sorry, P5, Bakari is P4, and right there with them is Botha, just over a second behind the Bakari Lucchesi combination.
Just in front of that is Johan Fourie, and yet another brilliant drive by Graham Stephen. I almost think I saw somewhere on one of the groups that he had got himself some new equipment, but I speak under correction. Either way, Graham Stephen having one of his best for a long time.
Indeed he has. Oh, and going wide there is Sandro Bakari. He will lose that position there to Luke Lucchesi. He might and does even lose out there to Willem Botha.
Wow, Johan Fourie, 2 minutes 20.361 is undoubtedly the fastest man out there right now.
Right, here comes Robbie Teens. There we see Stanton. There we see Van der Spey. Then we've got Van der Merwe. They're just ahead of Robbie Teens. And behind him is Luke King and Francois Joubert. This is a lovely train all the way from P7 Stanton right down to Francois Joubert in P12.
Well, it looks like Johan Fourie is not far off at this stage of the fight of Graham Stephen. He's hovering around the 2/10 of a second, so we'll keep an eye on that one. But I think this is where the massive struggle is. That's what you call a high-speed freight train with about 6 blocks of flats following one another, line astern.
In the size of these cars, it is a freight train, quite literally. And freight train that's working its way around. Teams has got King right in there behind him. King has got Joubert just in there as well. As Robbie Teens is hassled there by Luke King. Ahead of him is JJ van der Merwe. Ahead of van der Merwe is Peter van der Spey. And ahead of van der Spey is Timothy Stanton. That is that group of cars busy working its way around. It's a long, long train. And then catching up now, 3 seconds behind Francois Joubert in P13, making a comeback after hitting the wall, is Stephen McCarthy.
Let's just keep an eye on that gap. Remember 2.9 or 3 at the moment now. You would see him there in the background. Just memorize that one, and let's see if he can close up on this 6-car freight train that works its way around the circuit.
Stanton is leading this Orient Express train around the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. Right behind him is Peter van der Spey. Once again, Peter so far is leading the Grandmaster class. We'll speak to soon, but let's see what he can do. JJ van der Merwe is in there just behind him. That's the onboard cam on the van der Merwe Cadillac. And darting around behind van der Merwe, he's coming through there, his teens. And right next to
Yes, he
teens
makes
is
it.
Luke King. And Luke King has made the move, stick there on teens. As a matter of fact, he loses out there as well to Francois Hubert.
That's one hell of a battle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cars in the same shot. And, well, they deserve the footage that they're getting right now because they're putting up one hell of a show. Let's have a look a little bit further forward. Johan Ferry, that's what he sees in front of him. That's from Johan Ferry's car to Graham Stephen. And Pity Hubert, that's at the front of the pack, 7.5 minutes into the 25 minutes. It's not over yet because look who's just behind that. Oh, it doesn't start and end there. It starts there, but that is the next factor that's going to be coming into play. And that is, oh, look, he just missed the back of Johan Ferry. That was quite a strange one. Did Johan Ferry all of a sudden slow down? I almost think so.
Not sure what happened there, but Ferry gave that position up without a fight, and right on Ferry's case now is Willem Botha. So Willem Botha in the Barbadal outfit is all over the back of Ferry. What happened there, I don't know, but there was no resistance by Johan Ferry on the Lucchese Cadillac. As a matter of fact, he's now 1.3 seconds behind Luke Lucchese, is Johan Ferry.
Luke King is putting the pressure on JJ van der Merwe.
He is indeed, and just behind him is Francois Hubert. So JJ van der Merwe has got that Dot Soft Racing Cadillac right there on his case. Remember, van der Merwe also part of Bigfoot Express Racing, and he is under severe pressure here by the 43 Redwood car, i.e. Dot Soft Racing outfit of Luke King, that sits there in that 10th position, 2/10 of a second separating van der Merwe and King. And then literally in front of them is Peter van der Spey in P8.
Well, ooh, trying to make that one turn, but it didn't want to turn the way he wanted it to turn. Can he stick it up the inside of the Fanatec and Falcon sponsored car? Yes, he can. Can he make the second part of that corner? Yes, he does. And he comes up behind Peter van der Spey. Look left, nobody. Look right, nobody. That means that you are clearly past JJ van der Merwe.
Yeah, but now he's going to have to go somewhat. Ooh, he goes wide there, and he does the cut back there on Van der Spey that gets it slightly wrong. And King gets his nose ahead there of Peter van der Spey, and Van der Spey has got Van der Merwe right there with him now.
See everybody lifting slightly as they go down into the dip by Eau Rouge and up the hill there by Radiar. Up onto the Kimmel Straight they go, and now they work their way towards Lake Calm. Oh, it dives towards the inside, and how was that? We just closed you off. But let's see, can we turn that block of flats? Right on top of the curbstone, really battling Peter van der Spey with that massive big car of his. But while that's been happening, look at this, Graham Stephen all over the back of Peter Hubert.
It's going to be a five-way fight eventually. It's Peter van der Beers, Graham Stephen, it's Luke Lucchese, it's Johan Ferry, and it's Willem Botha. And these guys are right there with each other. There's only 1.7 between Lucchese and Ferry, but that doesn't mean a hell of a lot in this one, as Graham Stephen is right on the case of the Penzol man. That is Peter Hubert that sits out there in P1 as they race around. That's the helicopter shot of the cars working their way around the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. That's a Penzol outfit of race leader Peter Hubert, and he's busy working his way down towards a Blanchemont and then to that right-left chicane, which will take you to the end of the lap.
Look how close Luke Lucchese is now. Lucchese is in the game.
Yeah, Lucchese is just showing his nose there to Graham Stephen, telling him, listen, you bud, I'm right here. As they go into that right-left chicane, which takes him onto the home straight. Lucchese's car, as he walking around underneath him, as he climbs on the gas, and sits right in there behind Graham Stephen. Had a look to see up on the inside and then decided not going to make that move in La Source. That's only looking for trouble. So for now, he hangs in there behind Graham Stephen.
Let's see if we can get a long shot as they work their way through. There's a lot of trees there, but you can see just how vicious that climb is as they go over the rise. And that's where we've lost a racing driver not that long ago in the open wheel class.
Yeah, that's, as a matter of fact, one in 2019 and one this year as well. But yeah, that's something we don't talk about when it comes to races, be it on 4 wheels, 2 wheels, boats or in the air. Something that we rather just ignore. Focus on the good racing that we're seeing out here on track right now, and it is a very good one because there in P4, Mr. Johan Fourie has got Mr. Willem Botha for company as well, and that is fighting for that 4th position.
Well, I think Johan Fourie probably feels like he's got Ken and Bobby on top of him because, well, I must say he's been crowded there by Willem Botha that decided he's going to make a statement with the livery on his car, and he's making a statement in the placings with lap number 6 of a possible 11, 13 minutes into the 25 minutes, race number 2 in the Cadillacs for season 9 of Sports and GT for the South African productions that are going out there of iRacing. The Sports and GT has been the longest standing of everything.
Johan Fourie using Spa-Francorchamps, using the curves, he's using the whole track and more to try and keep that 114 Monster Cadillac ahead there of Willem Botha's car. On the other hand, at the business end of the field, Peter Hubert is trying to get away from Graham Stephen, and he might just do so because Stephen is defending to try to keep Lucchese behind, and he hasn't done so. Luke Lucchese has got his nose ahead there of Graham Stephen.
Well, that was always going to be interesting. Let's see as they come up towards us. Now there you can see from the end of the pit lane, that's how close they are to one another.
Yeah, that is that front 5 heading into turn 1 into La Source. As they head out of La Source now, climb on the gas, working their way up Eau Rouge, from Eau Rouge into Radial, and from Radial onto that Kemmel Straight. Disappear there from view. A lot of trees in this forest area in the mountainside of Belgium. And Luke Lucchese's gone for the lead. Luke Lucchese on the Kemmel Straight, heading into Lake Com, takes that lead away from Peter Hubert and Graham Stephen and Peter Hubert. They're both gone.
Oh, that was such a pity that one happened, and it looks like Johan Fourie got tangled up in that one as well.
Yeah.
So that's turned everything completely upside down. Sandra Bacaro says, lovely stuff, I'll come and join you. Don't have a hassle with that. Liberty Stanton says, I'll come play with as well. All good. Let's have a look at exactly how that one actually happened. Started off with Peter Hubert.
Yeah, look, it was first a maneuver there by Lucchese. He went through, and then Stephen stuck his nose in and made contact with Hubert, and then in sympathy, there was nowhere for them to go. Johan Fourie and Willem Botha did a pirouette to try and avoid contact, but there was always going to be contact.
I think Willem actually made contact with Johan. Yes, Johan saw it,
it's possible,
tried to slow down and had nowhere to go. And yeah,
right.
At that point, there was no way to go for them at that stage of the fight. So back to reality. How's it play itself out? Look, Mr. Luke Lucchese is up, dusted and disappeared. That means he's got a 9-second gap on the recovering Johan Fourie, who was one of the quickest to get back onto the tar and get going again, with Graham Stephen in third.
So all that eventually played into Fourie's hands because he finds himself in second position, Graham Stephen third, Peter Hubert, that was the leader, is there in P4, followed by Willem Botha. The Willem was in fifth, chasing Fourie when he was in fourth. So at the end of the day, Fourie gained and Botha stays in P5. So nothing lost and gained there for Botha.
Sandra Bacaro almost wiped out the back third of that car in front of him of Luke King. He was very late on the brakes. I think Luke actually saw him coming and decided to turn in a little bit earlier to get away from that. But what lovely racing, what great racing do you have with one make series, balance of performance exactly the same for everybody, and that's how you get 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cars in pretty much the same shot, and that is what it's all about. Timothy Stanton has a look, but he backs out of it. Luke King has worked his way a long way towards the front end of the field.
Yeah, Luke King is making the maneuvers there, and he's got a head off Stanton. As a matter of fact, Stanton, oh, Graham Stephen, he's sliding that car around. Now he must be careful, because he could lose out here to Peter Hubert and to Willem Botha. As a matter of fact, there's only 0.3 of a second between Stephen and Hubert, and Hubert has lost out to Botha. Willem Botha has got his nose ahead there of Peter Hubert, and now he's going after Graham Stephen.
Yeah, well, Francois Hubert did make that passing maneuver initially. Let's see how that one there was. That is the passing maneuver. Right around the outside he went. It looked all fine at that stage of the fight. And then, yeah, everything went a little bit pear-shaped there after. Peter van der Spey had a bit of an off. There's Peter van der Spey getting it back onto the circuit again. I think Peter van der Spey actually on the exit of the corner initially he already lost it, yeah, from there, and that is how he ended up in that specific situation. So let's go back to where it's all happening. 18.5 minutes into it, and the man that's in that 5th position, Peter Hubert, is starting to put the pressure on.
Yeah, well, Peter Hubert lost out to Willem Botha early on. That's the Hubert I was talking about. He lost out there to Botha, and he's still only 0.4 of a second behind Willem Botha. He's Hubert currently in P5, and as I said, now Botha will go after Graham Stephen. That is there in that 2nd position, 1.3 seconds behind Johan Fourie, who is almost 11 seconds behind race leader Luke Lucchesi with 19 minutes done.
Yeah, well, Luke definitely came out tops with that incident that happened just behind him. And while they were all scurrying to get going, of which Johan, oopsie daisy, a little bit too quickly on the gas there with the Cadillac, short changes from 2nd to 3rd, gets a tail in line, up into 4th gear, up into 5th gear. Does he still feather it? Yep, everybody feathers when they go over the top of the hill. Peter Hubert in that 5th position. Willem Botha, you see directly in front of him. Graham Stephen. 2 fantastic races for Graham Stephen.
Yeah, he's having a pretty decent one out there. He's Graham Stephen. But there's a fight for P9 because Raymond Duggan has got them racked and stacked. He's got Francois Hubert and JJ van der Merwe just in there behind him. Then you see that rearview mirror of Duggan, and that's what he sees behind him. He sees the man that's in P10, Francois Hubert, there, 0.3 of a second between the two of them, and right on his case is the Bigfoot Express car of JJ van der Merwe in P11, 0.6 of a second off Francois Hubert.
Nothing much between those guys whatsoever. It can go in any direction. Talking about in any direction, Willem Botha, it looks like he's pretty intent on going to the front of the pack, because he is now only 0.4 behind Graham Stephen. Graham Stephen is doing a very decent job out there himself, and I think the two of them you'll probably find by the end of this lap are going to be a little bit closer to Johan Fourie. It looks like he's just struggling a little bit to try and get rid of the two behind him.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't worry too much if I was Johan, because Graham Stephen's going to have to go into defensive mode now to try and keep Willem Botha behind him, so that gap that Fourie has on him might get a bit bigger as the race goes on. But trust me, Botha and the man ahead of him, Stephen's not going to give up on trying to get Fourie's 2nd position away from him. Right now, nobody will catch Luke Lucchesi. 11.5 seconds between himself and Fourie as we watch this fight for P3 between Graham, well, make it P2 between Johan Fourie, Graham Stephen and Willem Botha.
As I said, I think they're going to close on him, and that's exactly what they have done. Johan Fourie is going to sweat it out to keep them away from him. He's onto that inside line. He's going to take that Monster Energy 114 right to the edge of its adhesion. Oh, there's been chaos behind that. Willem Botha's crashed.
Botha and Stephen. Graham Stephen and Willem Botha. going into turn 1, the source. Oh, that is Botha's
just
fault.
tried. Yeah, he just
That's
tried.
Botha's fault.
Oh, that's the next car coming through.
That's Peter Hubert.
That's Peter Hubert, and that made Peter Hubert actually go off track, and then they eventually got it all back together again. Wow, what a race of attrition!
Yeah, well, you don't stick your nose in there. I mean, I think Botha should have known that. There's no
Yeah.
ways you're going to get that maneuver made there, because he's covering the line, going into very tight right-handed. He doesn't expect to find a car there. So, yeah, definitely. Sorry, Willem, but that was your fault.
So that's not a Ken move, that's a Barbie move.
That's definitely a Barbie move.
Well, what can I say? It's been brilliant. It's been amazing stuff. We got 2.5 minutes to go, and then it's all going to be all over. Bar the shouting, the second round of West Province Sports and GT Season 9 iRacing South Africa. And as I said earlier on, it's the longest running series in iRacing since pre-COVID, just before pre-COVID, when iRacing South Africa actually gave birth to iRacing in South Africa. We're still just under the 450 mark in terms of registered iRacers in South Africa. The content is rather expensive. Any one of these guys that you see racing out here have probably got at least 30 to 35,000 invested in different car and track combinations.
And he makes a mistake there, does Botha, and he loses that position there to Peter Hubert. So Peter goes up to P5, Willem drops down to P6. That is the white flag. The white flag is out. It is the start of the final lap for Luc Lucchesi, Johan Fourie, and for Graham Stephen. And the rest.
He's got one hell of a gap on everybody, has that man. And as he works his way down into the dip, here they're only now going into the exact same straight that he's just completed. Willem Botha's gone into the pits. Willem Botha is in the pits, and that's going to take him right out of it.
Yeah, he's completely out of this one. Here comes Timothy Stanton. He's in P6. He's still got Sandra Bakari, Raymond Duggan, and Francois Hubert right on his heels as they start their final lap, working their way up the Eau Rouge and Radion and the Kemmel Straight. Here they go, up Eau Rouge, through Radion and onto the Kemmel Straight. And JJ van der Merwe has now got Botha. I think Gary didn't Botha maybe do a drive because he's still out on track. He's in P14 and he's chasing down JJ van der Merwe.
You know what? He created that incident where you said, sorry, but it was your error.
Yeah.
You'll probably find he's either been asked or he's decided he's going to do a drive-through as penance before it even comes up, and he'll take it on himself. So well done there to Mr. Botha for either accepting the instruction or taking the initiative himself.
Yeah, I don't think the driver would go through on his own. He's probably told, listen, bud, you're a naughty boy, you need a drive-through penalty. But this man has done it all right as he makes his way out of Stavelot. Your race leader for Race Driver SA and Pantera Racing, Luc Lucchesi, all on his own, 17 seconds ahead of Johan Fourie in that second place as he makes his way through Blanchemont and heads towards the start-finish line. The checkered flag will be out. Around that kink he goes, and victory will go to Luc Lucchesi, nearly 18 seconds ahead of Johan Fourie and Graham Stephen.
So victory to Mr. Data Dot as he comes across the line. Let's see who's the next guy is coming through there. It's going to be Johan Fourie. You'll be quite happy with that. And Graham Stephen, 2 lovely races by Graham Stephen. Well done, Graham Stephen, as he works his way towards the line as well. Johan Fourie, where he's accustomed to being right up at the sharp end of the field.
King comes through, and so does Peter Hubert. And now we wait for Timothy Stanton. Oh, is that Francois diving around on the outside? Yes, here comes Bakari. Right behind him is Raymond Duggan, and then it is Francois Hubert that crosses the line, and then Willem Botha in P10, followed by JJ van der Merwe.
Yep, and then Robbie Teams comes through as well. Gerald Maget, the last man coming through. Same and similar livery, the Golf livery, but with a different number as opposed to Graham Stephen. He's the last man that's going to come through. I see Willem just flashed there in pit row. Not sure how he got back to there again. So, yeah, not too sure why he did that. Must have been a drive-through because he did go into the pits, and the next thing we saw him again a little bit further down. So that must have been a case of a drive-through penalty.
So, Mouget is the last man on track in P14, and he comes through to finish his race. Sadly, we lost Steve McCarthy, or what is classified as a lap down, but we did lose Eugene Manouk, we did lose Low Wrigley, and Chase Herald did not start this one.
Yeah, unfortunately, he lost out on that. So, Luke Lucchese from Luke King, Johan Fourie, Graham Stephen, Raymond Duggan. The success story of 2023 rounds out the top 5.
So, Luke King wins the Elites, finishes second. He was the only elite driver out there, so he comes first, second, third, and last. Luke Lucchese, Johan Fourie, and Graham Stephen come first and second in the Masters. And in the Grand Masters, it's Peter van der Spy in P1 and Sandra Bakari second, and Robbie Teens will be third in the Grand Masters.
So in class, 2 wins for Captain Pete.
Yes, 2 wins for Captain Pete, and 2 wins for Luke Lucchese, and 2 wins for Luke King as well.
So there we go. There was the feature race results. Luke Lucchese, Johan Fourie, Graham Stephen, Luke King, and Piri Hubert. Frankie, driver of the day.
Oh, it's difficult because there's 3 different classes.
Let's say overall.
Overall,
I'd say
yeah.
Graham Stephen.
Graham Stephen did extremely well, but I think the guy that will be having his tail feathers up will be Captain Peter van der Spy, because he got 2 wins in the Grand Masters, and I think it's the first time he would have achieved that. So I'm gonna nominate Peter van der Spy.
A good driver is always by Luke Lucchese. Johan Fourie, nice to see that he's back on pace up front again. He's always a deft competitor when he's plugged in and motivated. Graham Stephen, one of his best for a long time. Luke King, once again coming up at the front end of the pack, and he's becoming a regular top 6 at all the different races that he races at. Piri Hubert, another very close to success story of 2023. He's done very well. Timothy Stanton, in normal races between 5th and 8th, that's roughly where we find him. He doesn't push it too hard. He tries to stay out of troubles. Sandra Bakari has actually come along very strong if you think where he was 2 years ago to where he is now.
Yeah, Sandra Bakari doing very, very well in P7. Raymond Duggan also busy working his way up the ladder in general. Francois Hubert didn't have a good outing in both heats, as a matter of fact, so I would make my bad luck Francois Hubert. But in general, pretty decent. Where did Francois end? The 7th and 9th. You got a 7th in race 1, and you got a 9th in race 2. And that's not where he would want to find himself.
No, definitely not. Right, folks, that wraps it up for the evening. On behalf of myself, Gary Fleming, the voice of SA Oval, Frankie Yennis, the voice of West Bromwich Motorsport, both of us will be joining you at World Rally Cross in about 8.5, 9 days from now, down at Killarney International Raceway. They were here, the World Rally Cross guys, 2017, 2018, 2019, backed out because of the COVID, and back here in 2023. And that's all going to be going down next weekend at Killarney International Raceway. So, folks, thanks for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next week, Wednesday, for the round number 3 of the West Province Sports and GT Series 2023.
Yeah, just a rectification, Gaza, the 7th and 8th of October. Otherwise, we send people to Killarney next weekend and they come to closed gates.
Yeah, well, it's a good practice round. Good night,
Folks,
everybody.
good night. God bless. Goodbye.